cut out your Delta Shield cookies for this week's
Initial thoughts. Part 1. Initial thoughts. Part 1. Initial thoughts.
Welcome to the new Initial Thoughts Studios, Botwaters, where today we're talking the 6th episode of Lower Deck's 4th season, Parth, Ferengi's Heart Place. I'm amazed at Lower Deck's ability to turn out a satisfying episode that I've got a ton of likes coming for, but also manages to miss the mark at the end of most of its subplots. Another episode started with some lower deckers of another species and another crew that's added to the carnage of this ship that, if you haven't followed my previous reviews, I'm almost certain at this point is the race that built the whale probe in Star Trek IV. My first like of the episode is for the return of Rom and Lita, but specifically to starting the process of Ferenginar's entrance into the Federation. I really never saw this one coming, even with all the great progress Rom and First Clerk Lita are making, which I have another like for the first female First Clerk, and also their female Upyrian servant protecting them. Not one unclothed Ferengi female left in public in this episode. And I don't normally throw likes around like candy, but here's another for the Delta Shield cookies and Starfleet charcuterie boards. Too boldly, charcuterie where no one has charcuteried before. Admiral Dancing Machine joins Carol from the Toronto, and for once, Freeman is the high point of this whole A-plot. She bails the Admiral out and uses pure Ferengi lobes to catch them in legalese. Though, in between all this, I have a dislike, and it's for treating Rom like an idiot. I know, he often is, but in this episode he felt like a child, or like Zek when he was losing his marbles. Rom's not that old, and despite his mental handicaps, I felt like the jokes went a bit too far in painting his character in an incompetent light. Nice callback to Take Me Out to the Holosuite, and real-life Max Grodenchik's love of baseball throughout the episode, though, which I do have a like for. During that DS9 episode, he had to play left-handed to appear bad because he was quite good at the game back when. I've got a like for the newly minted 8th rule of acquisition. Small prints lead to large risks. It's been so long since we've coined a new one into canon, it was nice to hear on this trip to Ferenginar. With the A plot out of the way, Ransom sets up our B, C, and D plots as our Lower Decks friends are tasked with writing a travel guide to Ferenginar, all from different perspectives. I have a dislike for him tripping over how to say Lieutenant's junior grade. This is definitely not his first time addressing a plurality of LTJRs. Boimler gets all eager as he does, but spends his entire day sucked into Ferengi trash TV. I have a like for his room having a pay box, like we've seen in all Ferengi houses and businesses, but here, just to use the toilet, you've got to pay so that you have the privilege to pay again at the toilet for use. I also enjoyed that everything here is sponsored by Sluggo Cola. But I have a dislike. I was a little disappointed that the famous jingle that had supposedly never changed for 100 years, and it's nowhere to be found in the episode. And generally, this whole plot with Brad, culminating in Ransom telling security to drag him out of his room, is really weird. I did have a chuckle for wide-eyed Boimler in his undies watching trash TV, though. Now, Mariner's plot sees her frustratingly still being Mariner. As she meets her Ferengi friend Quimp, we get a callback to TOS's Dagger of the Mind as Beckett orders a drink of the same name. And even public libraries are just casinos on Ferenginar where Mariner gets into a fight just for the sake of getting into a fight. Which I've just plain got a dislike for. This plot gives us interesting looks at Ferenginar overall, including a dark look at the Dominion War Lost Prophets Memorial, which I'm really not sure how I feel about. Though I do have a like for a tiny piece of Mariner's backstory. Something about crashing an Oberth-class ship, which is a callback to how underpowered the class was frequently needing rescue or being destroyed. That leaves us with one final plot to get through. Since the Cerritos is apparently known for being a fairly promiscuous ship with no married couples, Tendi and Rutherford are tasked with gathering tourist information from the perspective of a married couple. And I can't think of a better choice. There's been some obvious tension there for years, and it all comes to a head in this episode, but didn't pay off the way I thought. After all this build-up, and between Tendi's extreme Orion blushing, and Rutherford's specific things he says throughout the episode he likes about Tendi, there's real chemistry here. And after making us watch this uncomfortable plot play out, it didn't pay off how I'd hoped, and that is a dislike. However, along the way, I have 3 likes in Quark's Federation Experience Bar and Grill. Oh, Quark, you ridiculous franchiser, you. The first like is for the de-establishing shot of the Cerritos and Toronto into Voyager and the D is a really well done transition to this homage to Starfleet. As we look around this place, my second like is specifically for where no gift has gone before the gift shop. That cracked me up. There's also the previously seen Mugado, introduced in TOS, A Private Little War. There's the red shirts, which is a joke within Lower Decks, and a wider joke about red shirts dying a lot. There's Carl, the Guardian of Forever, introduced in The City on the Edge of Forever. And one of my favorite things is the Constitution class nacelle designs as like railings. Yes, I want to eat at one of these in the near future, albeit minus the whole "you're going to do hard labor if you abuse discounts" thing. Seriously? This is the new and enlightened Ferenginar? Though the third like here is for the sexy edibles Rutherford and Tendi are uncomfortably presented with here. Where the scene actually gets a dislike is the whole love triangle thing, and roping poor Miggly Moo, who just wants to write a Yelp review, into saving themselves from the subaquatic sulfur mines. Rather than just solidly putting Tendi and Rutherford together, we end on a convoluted mess. But what's really important is what makes them happy together. Good for them. I just hope this doesn't become a Bashir and Ezri in the final episode kind of thing. Now that we've wrapped up the actual episode plots, let's talk about other notable things and callbacks. I feel like there are callbacks in this his and hers costume closet, but I can't place anything here directly back to anything definitive in Trek, though there are some that are close. I have a like for a toilet. I know, this sounds weird, but in more than 800 episodes of Trek, we don't see toilets. We kind of almost did in Star Trek V's Brig set, and you don't want to use that thing in space dock. Anyway, thanks for restoring my faith that bathrooms do in fact exist in the future, even if they're expensive AF on Ferenginar. There are holo imagers throughout, similar to the one the Doctor used frequently on Voyager. There's a portable Genesis device, I guess at the beginning, but the Ferengi don't seem 100% as to whether that's what it is. And if there are just casual small Genesis devices around now, that's interesting. I'm sure it will never be used in a nefarious way. The Admiral makes a not-so-funny joke about Moab 4 calling back to one of TNG's duller episodes, The Masterpiece Society. And as for all the fun neon signs, I have no idea what All You Can is about, but it's pretty much the funniest neon sign I've ever seen. And Maximum Umok's Rub Dungeon, I do have some idea what that's about. Even when 3 out of 4 plots end in weird anti-climaxes, Lower Decks is a show that's still satisfying at the end of the day, and I had a lot of fun learning about Ferengi society more than anything, and outside of its core plots, it did this extremely well. If you've enjoyed the content, please consider a like and subscribe below. And come join us on Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern as me and my Buffer Time crew tackle this and the very short trek this week. Until next week, live long and prosper. I've been your host, Dustin Wing.